a pandemic of a mammoth scale to propel health infrastructure to be a priority for our governments, unfortunately. The evidence that health facilities in India were inadequate for handling an emergency like COVID was very well on display during the second wave. To give you some context, in April of 2020, there was one ventilator in the public health space to cater for 81,000 citizens. Today, it stands at one ventilator for every 15,245 citizens. That is a massive jump for sure. But of course, a lot of those resources were added in after the devastation that we saw during the second wave. We are still far from making the leaps that we need to when it comes to health infrastructure. But what should be the priority areas when we develop it? Let's put that question to the director of AIMS, Dr. Randeep Guleria, who really has been a voice of reason and reassurance during the course of the pandemic in India. Welcome, Dr. Randeep Guleria.
Thank you.
Dr.
So
Guleria,
from
what are some of the areas that need immediate attention when we are talking of developing healthcare infrastructure in India?
so from my point of view, there are two or three things. One is there has to be more investment in healthcare. In India, the investment in healthcare is much less than what we would like to see, and that means investment in infrastructure, and it's not only in urban India but in rural India also. The investment in healthcare in rural India needs to be really ramped up. We need to use technology which is available to be able to provide healthcare even to the remotest of area. What we saw in COVID-19 was that telemedicine, teleconsultation, and technology could provide care to patients even if they were not able to come to the hospital. This is something that we can do even now and subsequently even in the post-COVID era. So infrastructure development using technology to help us to provide care to remote parts of our country, and in the same in a similar manner increasing the manpower. We still have shortage as far as manpower is concerned of healthcare workers, and we need to really invest in that so that we are able to really provide adequate manpower both in urban and rural India to look after the patients who need care, and that is something also that we need to do.
Dr. Guleria, you mentioned, the difference between rural and urban medical facilities. What are some of the ways in which that gap can be bridged?
So here there is a lot of investment required. We also need to look at how we can get the private sector more into investing in rural India and develop mechanisms. I mentioned one, which was medicine and teleconsultation, where even in a remote part or in rural India, if you have the facility, then you can reach out to a doctor in a tertiary care hospital and take advice. And if there is a need for some intervention, then a person can be shifted to that area. It could be a medical college in that area, it could be a district hospital, or it could be a tertiary care hospital. So that type of investment and planning needs to be done. At the same time, the centers, primary health centers, need to be built up. But I also feel as we move forward, we need to invest more in preventive health also. So whether it be looking at better sanitation, whether it be creating awareness for people who have diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, respiratory diseases. Because remember, not only are we seeing increasing burden of these diseases, people who died because of COVID had these comorbidities. So if we are able to have better control of these comorbidities, we will be able to decrease our mortality for COVID and also provide care in the long run as far as these non-communicable diseases are concerned.
Now, we saw a lot of fatalities in the second wave, and they were attributed to a lack of oxygen supply. Now, post that, we of course have seen a lot of investment going in that area. We're looking at multiple oxygen plants that have been set up as a precaution to the third wave. But there were other shortcomings, Dr. Guleria. For example, the shortage of medicines. One injection going for ₹1.5 lakh. How do we avoid all that, and what kind of infrastructure is needed to prevent such a situation in the future?
So this is a challenging area because you see what happened was the medicines are provided by the pharma industry, and the pharma industry works on a supply and demand issue. So medicines which were required, for example, remdesivir, it was used a lot in the first wave, and then as the first wave came down, the requirement became less, and therefore the production by the industry also came down, and they had to then again ramp up the production, and that took some time, and that's why there was a shortage which happened for some time. So there has to be anticipation of the needs, and the same thing happened with amphotericin. the anticipation that you would need so much of antifungal drugs because of mucormycosis was not there, which led to the shortage of liposomal amphotericin. Therefore, one has to be able to anticipate and have the capacity to sort of change and start increasing your manufacturing if there is a need to manufacture a particular drug at a short notice. And that needs to be done, because I think in the future, as we see outbreaks, we will have to develop a strategy where we can reappropriate existing structures to really start manufacturing things which they were not doing in a rapid manner.
Dr. Guleria, one of the major shortcomings we have seen through the course of the pandemic is a shortage of staff, shortage of doctors, nurses. What can be done on that front?
So a lot is being done on that front, but I think that will take time, because, as you are aware, the government has now opened many new medical colleges, nursing colleges have been opened, and gradually the numbers will improve. There is this plan that we will probably would want to double the number of doctors that we are producing in the next 4 to 5 years in terms of the colleges that are coming up in our country. Considering the population of our country, we need to really try and see how we can increase the numbers. But I think we also need to understand that there is also a skewed number, because we see that a large number of doctors are available when it comes to larger cities. But as we start going to rural India, the proportion of doctor available in terms of the population there becomes less and less. And therefore, we need to develop a strategy that we are able to have doctors who can go to rural India. We have enough facilities available for them so that they feel that they can work there. They get job satisfaction, and they have security in terms of the family that settles down there as far as that area is concerned. So unless we develop a comprehensive plan, we will have more doctors, but they will continue to stay in tertiary or secondary towns and will not be going into rural India. So it's not only increasing the number of doctors, it's also developing a strategy that we have doctors going into remote parts of the country and providing healthcare facilities, and possibly developing a mechanism where referral system is strong enough so that those patients who are sick can have a referral system of going to a secondary care center or a tertiary care center.
Absolutely. Dr. Guleria, final question to you would be, when you look at the future of healthcare infrastructure in India, what role do you see the private sector playing?
I think the private sector has a very important role to play. The private sector currently is providing a huge support as far as the healthcare is concerned. There has to be synergy between the private and the public sector, and they have to be able to work in a mechanism that they sort of support each other, and there's a win-win situation from both sides. So there has to be an understanding of how we can use the private sector to really optimally support the public sector in providing healthcare, which is affordable, which is helpful to the citizens, and is also done in a manner that the respect and integrity which doctors have is maintained, because that is also something which is very, very important. So if we are able to develop a mechanism where we can really have partnership of providing quality healthcare both in the public and private sector, and maybe develop a system where there is support to the private sector from the financial point of view, I think that is something that will go a long way.
Absolutely. So it is incentives that the private sector has also been speaking about, and we hope that the public and the private partnership actually does develop the infrastructure that India deserves and needs. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Guleria.
Thank you. Thank you.